What's up, Trader's Edge? It's Mark Sebastian, your only option, and this is your week in review. Today, we're going to talk about what happened with the major indexes, what happened with the volatility index this week, and I'm going to lay out a couple of nice trades that we did and some trades that I see that we looked at on Friday. And then I'll just give you a little hint about what's coming up next week. I've got a look ahead video coming at you tomorrow. So let's dig in. This should be pretty quick. What a week for us at Option Pit. We closed AZN for nearly 100%. We closed ICLN over 100%. We're along some NXE we closed a bunch of calls. Those are up 100%. And Disney. In Delta Strike, we closed Disney calls. I wish I'd have hung on. I sold them at $2.30. They were expiring today. The calls went out, not in Disney, I'm sorry, IBM. We bought 167.5 calls for Friday. They went out $4. We sold at like $2.30. We got in for 70 cents. Nice trade. IBM looks like it's off to the races. Now, obviously, we had a couple losers. BlackBerry didn't go the way we were hoping for. RILY managed to hold up. But all in all, a really, really good week for us. Now, on the week, it was really led by the chips. Semiconductors led us higher. They are in an all-time high. They are just absolutely have taken off. Where? On the back of NVIDIA, up another $25 today, and on the back of AMD. Both stocks are at all-time highs. So what do you do then? Well, you could say, hey, there's some stocks that have some catching up to do. Intel, my favorite chip stock, Qualcomm, has some catching up to do to get to that all-time high. We could see some of these names move. Looking at SPX itself, it closed at an all-time high, 48.39.81. We are in uncharted territory, really lifted by the QQQ. QQQ, again, also at an all-time high, 421.18, really pushing higher, really stretching. Could be, I think, a pretty fascinating week coming up. Why? Well, today, Friday, was expiration Friday. This is a big one for ETFs and equities. Why? Well, these were once leaps. So in the ETFs and in equities that have leaps, so let's say something like EEM, which is an ETF. If you look at EEM, all of their long-dated options are going to be January 2025, January 2026. So this January that we're looking at is more than 2 years old. It's like 2.5 years old, and it just came off. So you can look at all the open interest in a name like EM that just disappeared today. Same goes for like an Apple. All right, Apple has leaps out to 2026, and that is what is going to drive. Those options are going to have a ton of volume. Look at all the Apple open interest that came off the table today. That is a big deal. For a name like SPX, having this expiration, this is the biggest non-quarterly, non-witching month out of all the regular serial months. So there was a lot of volume and open interest that expired on Friday. So that was a pretty big deal. What does that do? That creates liquidity pockets, and we could see some moves. I think next week in particular could be a really fascinating week for the market, coming off an all-time high with these moves. So what drove the SPX to its all-time high? Well, how about a nice little recovery in the bond market? When the bond market rallies, the S&P will take off, and that is what we saw on Friday. The bond market drove us higher. So SPX new all-time high, Q's new all-time high, IWM not an all-time high. So if we're going to stay here, if we're going to stay up in this range, there is big potential upside for IWM and MDY. All right, another name that could start seeing some action here, RSP. Closed about 156.40. If we're going to continue to rally, it's going to 160. Should be really interesting for the next few days. Now, let's look at VIX, because that might be the one thing that's telling us a different story, right? We're at an all-time high, and VIX is well off the lows. It still has a little bit of an underlying bid. That tells me there is some embedded fear there. VIX term structure, still pretty tight, only about $1.25. This should be closer to like $2. So they're telling us either VIX is going to go even lower, or we're going to get a big, big move. But you know, that was the week that was very simple. You know, we had a big move in big tech, notably chips, and everything else kind of stunk. Oil, industrials, everything else kind of sat by the wayside. It was a very tight, low, you know, not a lot of names in the driving of this rally. It was really Mag 7 pushed. I'll end with Bitcoin. We can look at ARKB. This is the most active of the Bitcoin ETFs. Finally caught a little bit of a bid on Friday with the market. I still think there's some downside, and there's some downside in some of the Bitcoin related stocks. We've been discussing Coinbase in the Pit Report. Make sure you check it out. Monday on our ticker show, we're going to develop a trade around Coinbase. All right, folks, I'll be back tomorrow with my week ahead forecast and the 5 stocks I'm watching. Make sure you check it out. I am Mark Sebastian, your only option. I'll see you soon.